Yes, yes. Welcome in. It's a balloon party. And it's driven by Munganass, St. Louis Acura, Munganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. My name is Timothy Michael McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett. This is 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Get on board, participate in the YouTube chat on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, or text in to our Air Comfort Service text line. Jackson, you have a wonderful presentation prepared for our audience here today, and that's exciting because Jeremy Rutherford's with us at 10:45 as the Blues have won 4 straight, and you have this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up.
I think the only emotion, Tim, that could be described right now by not only me, not only you,
Sure.
but the entire St. Louis area is a general sense of relief.
I see what you're doing.
Just a really...
I see what you're doing.
I think everyone's just now relaxed. It's all right, now we can get into it.
I see what you're doing.
Because Ali Marmol finally got his contract extension.
You know what? I was debating this morning what the lead was today. Can it be Ali Marmol 3 days removed? Nearly 72 hours? Illinois winning the Big Ten? Going to tournament as a 3 seed? Played Morehead State. The Blues, 4 straight. City, 3-3. Is it a story of a comeback? Or is it a story of leaving a couple points out there by giving up a goal in extra time? You wanted to lead with golf because you're elitist. And Scotty Scheffler at the Players, and the most dominating performance we've seen since the Tiger Woods era. I understand it all. But I think the lead is Ali Marmol, even though it's been 72 hours. That's where I am. And you might disagree. That's fine. What are the most people interested in? What are the most people talking about? I think that's it. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not, but maybe I am.
Here's where I'm at.
Okay.
Circumstantial.
Okay.
If the Blues were not in the situation they're in, they're still obviously in it, and they're playing great hockey.
You don't think they're going to...
Well, if they were 2 points out of playoff race, I think you'd have a case for the Blues being the lead. I think had Illinois not been getting a bid to the tournament, unless they won the Big Ten Conference tournament, maybe that's a lead. Okay. But both of those things are not true. Illinois would have made the tournament without winning, and the Blues, while still very much in it, and we're all
4.9% per money puck now.
They're still very much in it. Got to take on the Avalanche tomorrow. Catch that right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Had that been the case, maybe it's the lead. But not being the case, I think Ali Marmol and his contract extension is still the lead.
Jackson, you always talk about how I've had a Hall of Fame career.
I talk about it often, especially off the air.
Yeah, that's where I feel like you do it more, actually. That's weird to me. But either way, in this Hall of Fame career, your words, not mine, yeah, I have been following the St. Louis baseball Cardinals. And if you say it that way, it's kind of old school because that means you can speak to when the football Cardinals were here.
I think we should put the sport in front of every team we talk about.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles basketball Lakers.
I think it's great.
They'll be mentioned in the Sports Center update. Yep. The way that it works, and I think anybody can do this, this isn't like a badge of honor by any means, especially now with everybody and their brother having a podcast or a place where they write or tweet or whatever the hell goes on, is Brian Bartow is the Cardinals media relations. You're on a list, especially if you've spent time in Jupiter and you're down there spring training, with updates on what's going on. When Marmol's speaking, this goes on daily. It's essentially, if you're not there, kind of spam, but, right, whatever. So I get the thing. I think after we were done with Balloon Party on Friday that the Cardinals are having a press conference at either 1:30 Central or 1:30 Eastern, whatever. Either way, I'm not on the air. And in my mind, I'm thinking Paul Goldschmidt's getting extended. This is the traditional mid-March extension, whatever. Let's just hope it's not too long of an, in my mind, because I don't want to see them do that. But there wasn't a sliver of me that thought, oh, they're extending Ali Marmol. Not a sliver. And when the announcement was made public, I was with a number of people, and not only was there shock, there was disgust. And this isn't, I wasn't with people who tweet all day. I was with other kinds of people.
Right. People in Reddit threads.
That's what I was saying.
Moderators.
Right. Oh, is that a badge of honor on Reddit?
You can call it that.
Is that right?
It's a badge of something.
And I mean, it was the talk. It was like for like hours. People were just. I don't know what this franchise is doing. I don't know what they're doing. If you would have told me after they wrapped up that magical 2023 season that the Cardinal offseason in between the end of the 71-win campaign and the next regular season game would include the following moves: bringing back Lance Lynn, Matt Carpenter, and extending Ali Marmol, I would have said, I'll give you 1,000 to 1 on it. I don't know. And part of me wouldn't be mad about paying you off because it'll be so entertaining. And then it actually happens, and I go, oh, my God. What are they doing? And then John Mozeliak talks to Katie Wu of The Athletic and says that he, Bill DeWitt, and Ali Marmol were relieved they got it done. What an MFing adjective. Relieved. If you control something, you can't be relieved by getting it done. You controlled it. You got it done. That's great. Oh, I lifted up my phone. What a relief.
It is relieving.
Oh, let's settle in. We got that taken care of. You controlled it. Ali Marmol, in his own words, said he was surprised when he got the extension. Mozeliak said, I didn't tell him it was coming. He was a little surprised with a smile. What in the hell is going on? I truly don't know what the point of it is. I'm trying to because I understand that games are played. And by games, I'm not talking about the actual games that have not been played since they won 71 of them. But like business and mental games, I understand that. But I don't know what the angle of this is. And here is where I am. For the record, by the way, I don't think from a logic standpoint. Now, I know you can do this on social media, and you could probably do it in our industry too. But from an actual logic standpoint, if you're really sitting down with people, business people, Reddit moderators, the elite.
Especially the latter.
That you can say, well, the Cardinal roster in 2023 was garbage, and then also blame the manager. It's not to say that it's an either or, but if you are of the opinion that the roster, in particular the rotation going into the season, and then as it played out, was garbage, well, then whoever you think is the best manager in baseball, are you of the opinion that that guy would have taken that manager or that roster as manager and made it successful? Okay, then if that's the case, then the problem is more on the manager. I don't think there is a human being alive who could have managed the Cardinals to a playoff spot /90-win season. I guess now a playoff spot you can win. What did the Diamondbacks win? Like 6 games or something?
Yeah, 6.5.
I think they won 83. But that's a 12-game difference. You think a manager makes a 12-game difference. So my premise being, I'm not fire Ali Marmol guy at all. But I'm sure as hell not extend Ali Marmol guy. I just don't get it. And I'm telling you, and I don't say this to be like above it. I'm just being honest. That's what I come in here and do. It's what I do with TMA. It's what I do with my podcast. I just tell you what I think. And you might like it. You might dislike it. But you know it's honest. It's where I'm coming from. I just don't get worked up about too much when it comes to sports unless I think somebody's, I don't know if I can use this word, so I'll use the word jerking people around. But I feel like the Cardinal fan base is getting jerked around, and that's why I'm irritated. I'm just taken aback by what they're doing. I don't get it. I don't get it. And this is also coming from the guy who said, I understand what they're doing with the offseason. Now, they spin this offseason into like, well, that's what Mozeliak said. Once we got the roster taken care of, you think this roster's taken care of? Okay. I mean, I certainly wouldn't describe it as taken care of, and it's got nothing to do with the results-oriented of seeing older players getting injured in spring. That's kind of what happens with older players. I wouldn't have said it was taken care of before they got to Jupiter, Florida. But now it's like there's this victory lap about the offseason. What in the hell is that? And then in addition to it, now you have a franchise that's got the opening day starter is not going to be available because of a chronic hamstring problem. And he only averaged 120 innings in 2021-2022 in Minnesota. I mean, there's a lot of talk of the 184 last year, so that isn't like home free. So now you have a 35-year-old who had a bad year last year starting in Los Angeles on opening day. Kenyon Middleton is now out, one of the acclaimed additions for the bullpen. Lars Nootbaar, Tommy Edman. You've got all kinds of question marks. But for whatever reason, that was the moment that you go, you know what? I like what I see. Let's go ahead and extend the guy who led the team to 71 wins. I just don't understand it. Now, what's being read between the lines, because most of the columns I've read have actually been supportive of it or roundabout supportive of it. And that's fine. Hey, maybe, by the way, maybe I'm wrong. But is that, well, you know, they wanted to quiet the rumblings about Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols becoming manager. I'm like, you own the team. This can't be a coup d'etat.
Right.
Yadier Molina may want to manage the team, but he can't, like, take it over by force. So, for the life of me, like, part of me is like, man, these guys are really tone deaf. Matt Carpenter, Ali Marmol extension, tone deaf. But then, if anything, then I go, well, actually, I think they're paranoid, and you can't really have the two coexist because they're worried about social media rumblings about Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols wanting to manage. The two can't coexist. You can't be tone deaf and paranoid. But yet, I would say that this move was more based out of paranoia that they're going to get off to a bad start. So the offseason was great, but we might get off to a bad start. And so we got to extend a guy. Oh, what did he do last year? Well, he won 71 games. Well, he must have been managing for 10 years before that. No, he wasn't. He's got 2 years experience. And in one of the years, he won 71 games. Now, again, I don't blame him for the 71 games. But I have no idea why you would extend him. What a strange system of rewards we have going on here. I do not get it. I wish I could come in here and Colin Cowherd your asses and say, I know you all think this, but I am intellectually enlightened, and here is why. I have no idea. I just know that I am beyond confused by what has taken place. And I don't know if it's rewarding mediocrity or if it's trying to make sure that you don't have somebody come in like a Yadier Molina, for example, to manage the team, because if Yadier Molina comes in, you don't have control anymore. That's for sure. I don't know. I guess I can throw that theory out there. Otherwise, for the life of me, I can't figure it out. All I know is I put a little Twitter poll up, Jackson, coming out of Twitter retirement every once in a while for the like the move, dislike the move. And last time I checked, we were at 90% did not like the move.
Yeah, I would say that would...
872 votes, 90%.
I would expect that. I see a lot of parallels.
I'd be curious what the 10% like.
Yeah, like is a tough, understand maybe, but I see a lot of parallels with the Matt Carpenter signing because...
I would agree with you.
Yeah, it's from a pure baseball standpoint, just focusing on that. It's kind of a nothing. Like, if he has another clunker season, they can fire him. They'll be out a couple million. It's a rounding error if in the grand scheme of things. From a PR standpoint, it's a total airball. It's not what the fans want to hear at this very moment. When, like you said, laying out the entire situation, not to mention the injuries, and then your explanation for it as well. If we get off to a rocky start, we don't want to hear people, the rumblings. Well, that tells fans that you are listening to social media, yet doing nothing to appease social media. And also listening to social media when you kind of should be focusing on baseball, and also kind of setting the groundwork for, hey, maybe we're going to have another clunker start to a season. That's not what fans want to hear either. I
agree with your analogy, and you're not talking about Carpenter this offseason. You're talking about the Carpenter extension, whatever that was, 6 years ago or something like that.
Kind of both, because they're both
Well, that's tone deaf, but the
Yeah.
Carpenter extension was a move you didn't have to make. This is a move you don't have to make. I don't want to relitigate the Carpenter thing this year. It's tone deaf again,
Right,
but it's a nothing. The extension 6 years ago was just what's the point? Why do you have to do it?
Right.
What, we're like the Yankees and Red Sox getting ready to get Ollie? I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I just don't get it, man. For the life of me, I do not get it. And like I said, I mean, I don't have a great theory. The only theory is, holy crap, maybe Bill DeWitt would go, okay, the fans are going nuts. The attendance is terrible. We're 5-15, playing a tough schedule to start. We got to whack Ali Marmol. Let's bring in Yadier Molina because we know we got to have attendance, and that's going to get people going. And Mozeliak goes, oh, God, I lose control if Yadier Molina comes in. Bill DeWitt might be like, oh, God, I lose control if Yadier Molina. That's a guy who could lead a coup d'etat because everybody would be on his side. Otherwise, for the life of me, I have no idea. Baseball, and I keep saying this over and over again. Number one, I don't blame him for last year. I really don't. And that's an unpopular opinion, but I don't because I'm of the opinion that the roster was crap. So I don't care. Tony La Russa, whoever you would say, Whitey Herzog, it doesn't matter. Joe Torre with the Yankees manager, not Joe Torre with the Cardinals manager, couldn't have fixed that thing. So that's not on Marmol, but you still don't extend him. So I have no idea what they're doing. All I know is you just pissed off an already pissed off fan base. More. Doesn't make sense, man. Your thoughts, 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service. Text line, YouTube chat, 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett, Jeremy Rutherford at 1045. This is Balloon Party, 101 ESPN. James Carlton is my insurance agent. He has the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency in Webster Groves, and he's online at carltoninsurance.net. And I cannot say enough positive things about James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. Great customer service. And how about this? For those of you with kids under the age of 25 who are on your insurance policy, look into James Carlton and see what they can do for you at the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency in Webster Groves, because that is where James saves people the most money. 360 plus 5-star reviews on Google, raving about the customer service that James and his staff provide. He is online at carltoninsurance.net. The phone number is 314-961-4800. He is my insurance agent. He has been for 5 years, and I could not rave more about the customer service that James and his staff provide. carltoninsurance.net. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. It's driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. Jackson, I have a lot of support in the Air Comfort Service text line.
Yeah,
I kind of figure that would be the case. I'm not in the business of looking for support, but the opinion. Listen, who's going to come in and rave about the contract extension?
It's going to be tough to rave. I guess you could say I understand it.
Okay, take that line just for the sake of it. You play Skip, I'll play Shannon.
Okay, the only way that I could say one would understand it is maybe because it has been the talking point that the players really like Ollie.
And I can only speak to my primary sources, so it's not like I have everybody on the roster, but that is representative of my understanding.
Yeah, it seems like the consensus that the players really like Ollie, and if this gives him assurance that he will be their manager in 2024, if that gives them any sort of confidence in the club, any sort of peace of mind, then I could say, okay, understand it, because again, you can still fire him if he has a terrible year, or the Cardinals have a terrible year in 2024. That would be the only way that you could kind of rationalize this move. Otherwise, it's just totally ludicrous.
From the 618, this extension has ruined my life.
That might be an example of a little bit of a ludicrous situation, but maybe not.
Let's see what else we got here. Marmol was extended because if the Cardinals have a bad season, people will be calling for his head during a contract year. This way, if they're having a bad season, well, he's got 2 years, so we aren't going to fire him. I think they're planning for a big year. But the thing is about that is they can still fire him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They can fire him whenever.
Right. I don't think it necessarily... that's the thing. I don't know what this does. The interview that John Mozeliak did with Katie Wu is, if you're like kind of fine with it and you've moved on, like this poor guy who said this extension ruined his life, don't read the article because you're going to go back to a dark, dark place. It's so strange. And again, this is coming from, not that it matters because you separate the personal from the professional, but I really do like John Mozeliak. I really do. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any ill will or anything. None of this is personal. It's just observing things through the lens of business. And it makes no sense. So, but you already have a fan base that's confused, irritated, at worst, actually apathetic.
That would be the worst possible situation.
And now you've ignited that 10 days before the season starts, or I guess in the case of this extension, 13 days before the season starts. You've pissed them off more and just go, okay, I'm done. What are you guys doing? You got to be kidding me. I don't know. Anyway, there's a billion other topics to talk about. Jeremy Rutherford's with us at 10:45. I want to make sure Jackson gets to spread his wings with this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up.
Yeah, sure.
Where are you going with the second one?
This one seems like another one that I'm very confident is the secondary lead. And
I'm anxious to hear what you go with.
Oh, that's 2 in a row two on the weekend, back-to-back games for the Blue Note.
4 in a row.
4 in a row.
Tried to throw me a breaking ball there.
Weekend, they're undefeated, though. This weekend, they were undefeated on the weekend. And it's good to see. Yeah, it's good to see. Power play improvements, buy-in from every corner of the locker room. It seems like this team might be capable.
All of a sudden, Jackson's throwing buy-in around.
I like talking buy-in because it's like you can't prove them wrong.
Right.
It seems like this team might be capable of defying Money Puck's odds and
4.9% is the number right now. It's actually lower than it was when they won Saturday night against the Wild.
Yeah.
Now, I realize Minnesota picked up a point in the Blues win, and then Vegas won yesterday, so I gather that is why it dropped 0.8 of a percentage point. The fact that I'm monitoring like this is amazing. You know who I love watching play? And you might even be able to answer this.
Jake Neighbors.
Yeah. Kelly Chase, who I believe was on opening drive, he was doing it. Kelly Chase and Barrett Jackman did a tour around Hubbard Radio St. Louis's studios, and we talked about the team and the performance. And I would really recommend if you're a Blues fan going back and listening to that interview because a number of people took shots. Ken Hitchcock.
Big time.
Chase did an interview with Cam Jansen and Andy Strickland on their podcast. And enjoyed that podcast. And I was listening, and he said, I thought he said 3 or 4 guys clearly don't want to be here. And so when he was in studio a couple hours ago, I said, hey, I was listening to you on Cam Jansen and Andy Strickland's podcast, and you said, I think 3 or 4 people didn't want to be here. And he stopped me and he goes, and I go, oh, I guess he's going to kind of take it back, which would be very off-brand for number 39. And he goes, did I only say 3 or 4 because I think I might mean more? I go, oh, my God. This is after a 4-game winning streak. Holy crap. Yeah. It would have been like if they would have lost to the Ducks. And by the way, through the first, what would that be, 35 minutes of that game, I thought, oh, my God. You're going to have, they played, even though I'm sure some fans were disappointed, and I was as well, that the Wild got that point on Saturday night, but they played a really good game on Saturday night. And Drew Bannister raved about the way they played. The team was really pleased with the way they played and got that win against the Wild. And you got the momentum after shocking Boston last Monday, beating the Kings, who you might be going neck and neck with all the way to the stretch. And then you beat the Wild, who you were tied with. And then you play this horrible hockey team. I mean, the Ducks, and this kind of happens at the end of the year after the trade deadline. The teams that are clearly out of it are horrible. Think of the Blues at this time last year. And you're watching that and you're going, oh, my God. And I was listening. I was driving back in the second period with my son after he had a skate, as a matter of fact. And you could hear just how disgusted Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale were. And just hoping for a spark and noting the changes that were made in the power play, Kyrou to the bench, standard operating procedure. And boom, here you go. You get the very lucky break, and Kevin Hayes gets the goal, and then the power play changes against the Ducks with the penalties. They break through in the third period. I would have loved to have live bet it once they got that first goal, but I was worried, here they go again. They're going to lose to another team that just is not playing for much, just like Columbus about a month ago. And that halted the winning streak going into the All-Star break. Instead, Jake Neighbors, he's just always there. And Chase, you could tell when I asked him and Jackman about Neighbors. They brought it up, actually, about him, going under Braden Shen's wings, and, just it's not easy to do what he's doing, especially as a young guy. He was a factor in those goals, and it's fun to watch him play, in addition to the Blues goaltending. And that's the thing. And the other thing that Chase made reference to, if they can get in, is this a Stanley Cup team? It would be a miracle. They literally are given a 0% chance of winning the Stanley Cup on Money Puck. There you go. How's that possible? I don't know. I'm just telling you that's what the number is, 0% chance. But as Chase said, and I said, here's the deal. If they go into the playoffs, I would think they're kind of dangerous for 2 reasons. Number one, they have nothing to lose. Yeah. There's zero expectation. Whoever would get them would have a bunch of pressure on them. Take your pick of one of the teams from the Central or Vancouver. And then on top of that, you have a goaltender who can steal a series. Hot tending. And so if that's the case, but Chase is like, that's great, and that's true. He goes, but just get these young guys the experience of Stanley Cup playoffs, because eventually they will be a contender again and get that experience. So I would love to see it. I guess it could happen. When you beat Boston like that and then you rattle off these wins, hey, man, I don't know. I'm anxious to see how they play tomorrow night against the Avalanche before heading out on the road to take on Ottawa, and then another Saturday against Minnesota. I think that's 3 or 4 Saturdays against the Wild. And the schedule is favorable. Don't get me wrong. You have games against the Avalanche, and, Edmonton's on that schedule still. Carolina's still on that schedule, but they're more butt-asses than not the rest of the way. So the opportunity is there. Jeremy Rutherford's going to join us at 10:45. Jackson with more of the weekend wrap-up coming back. This is Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, presenting sponsor of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, and the place where I go and my family goes to get our cars, and the place we recommend you go to get your cars as well. But don't just get your cars there, get your car serviced there. And if you're saying, well, I already got a car, but I need to get it serviced, but I didn't get it from Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, I say that's no problem, because they will service your car happily, even if you didn't get your car from Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. They're online at stlouisacura.com, and they're online at altontoyota.com, and on top of that, they want to make themselves as accessible as possible, and so they give out a number for our listeners specifically for you to text or to call, and that number is the following: 314-252-0029. That's 314-252-0029. It's Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota.
This This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues stay hot as they are on a 4-game winning streak, including both games this weekend over the Wild and the Ducks. The Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they take on the Colorado Avalanche. You can catch that game right here on the home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Pre-game starts at 6 p.m. Puck drops at 7 p.m. And last night, the Bucks defeat the Suns 140-129. Damian Lillard, 31 points and 16 assists. That was another SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. Balloon Party 101 ESPN. Jeremy Rutherford going to join us here in about 5 minutes. Jackson Burkett, Tim McKernan with you to the top of the hour. The program is Balloon Party driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. The Balloon Party Mafia active today in the YouTube chat, Jackson. Tiny Peepee's in there. So is Joshy Tuna. And Robert De Niro's 69, or is it Roberto De Niro 69?
Let's
and Chris Engel.
Let's go with Roberto in respect to Bobby D.
Amen. Jackson, do you have a third question on this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up?
Yeah, Timmy, talk about the tournament.
Well, you
talk about the tournament. We talk about Free Frozen March.
Morehead State.
We talk about Morehead State. We want to talk about Kent State. You got to know. We got to know what the situation is.
Look at the scoreboard.
We want to talk about Long Beach State firing their coach, and then a week later he makes the big dance. What's going to happen? Is he still fired? Can they take down Arizona? Can Arizona lose to a 15 seed 2 years in a row?
What about Kimmy English?
What about Providence and the Big East getting screwed out of seats? Where's Seton Hall? What about Rick Pitino?
Nice. Look at you.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah,
this is just a segment until JR. Right. I was talking like Vitale.
Right. That's all we do. Well, it's kind of a Digger Phelps, Dick Vitale, East Coast hybrid.
Yeah, always focusing on the Italian head coaches.
Right. What a strange thing. Nonetheless, Jackson, what question do you have as Illinois wins the Big Ten, beating Wisconsin, who got Purdue?
That was impressive. I mean, the Big Ten, it's not easy when Big Ten
tournament. Will you pull for Illinois?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I only root against Illinois one day of the year, and that's bragging rights game.
Okay.
Every other day, I root for
Illinois and St. Louis U, and then some Missouri fans hate me for it. I'm just like, I don't have to tell you. I don't care. You can hate me. There's a lot of reasons to hate me. I'll give you like 30.
It's not like Kansas or anything like that, where it's like this generational rivalry. It's purely location. We play Illinois plays one game a year. I root against Illinois that day, and then every other game, rooting for him.
I was planning on pulling for Illinois and pulling for Providence, and then Kim English didn't get in.
I know. I was really upset about that because the Big East is just a dominant conference. Not dominant in the sense of like they have the best teams. However, they are all really good and competitive. And when you have a competitive league like that, you're going to beat up on each other. And to punish that as opposed to reward that, I think is nonsense. And then it's all, it's analytics based, but there's so much eye test you have to do into it. It's not a perfect system. There is no perfect system. And every single year, a couple teams get screwed. I just thought the Big East thing this year was really strange to me.
I agree. Seton Hall, St. John's, and Providence all on the outside looking in. Jackson, what is your question? You have a question? Or
I just wanted to talk a little bit. If people want to get involved in picking games in the tournament, 101 ESPN's run a very nice little
they
promotion.
are. The bracket is set. Get signed up to play in this year's Bracket Madness Pick'em Challenge. Register to participate now at 101ESPN.com. It's free to enter, and this year's top scorer will take home a $250 Amazon gift card and a 101 prize pack. See the contest rules and get signed up to play in Bracket Madness now at 101ESPN.com. Brought to you by Bud Light and Twin Peaks. So there you go. You're free rolling for $250 Amazon gift card and a 101 prize pack.
I really like Tennessee.
You like Tennessee in this tournament?
Really like. We were talking
Rick Barnes.
They were talking about Kim English, Rick Barnes, his former head coach when he was an assistant, and they have a guy named Dalton Connect, who I have rarely seen a guy look as good as he looks when he plays. But he is unbelievable.
When Missouri had a lead on him, he rose to the occasion.
He is nasty. So I think a lot of times.
How far do you think this Illinois team could go this tournament? Can they get vengeance on Bruce Pearl in the Elite Eight?
No one's rooting harder to beat Bruce Pearl than this guy right here.
Oh, how about that?
I am not a Bruce Pearl guy in the slightest.
Wow, Jackson loaded for bear.
Illinois, only concern I have for Illinois is if the opposing team has a dominant big man. Illinois is so good stretching the floor. They got great shooters.
You
Terrence
tell me you
Shannon.
don't think they win if Wisconsin doesn't dispatch of the Boilermakers on Saturday.
I'm just like Coleman Hawkins is like a great player. He's a prototypical pro kind of player where he can stretch the floor. He's lanky and quick, but he gets dominated by really dominant big men. Obviously, Zach Edey's not a good example of that because he is the most dominant big man. But if you have deep post presence, which is rarer and rarer these days in basketball, Illinois can be a little exposed. But outside of that, they got all the pieces, man.
There it is.
And they're obviously super well coached.
Jackson endorsing the Fighting Illini, but not endorsing Bruce Pearl and War Damn Eagle. 10:43 in St. Louis. Jeremy Rutherford on the other side of the break. You're listening to Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party. It's 101 ESPN. It's a program driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton, Toyota. My name is Timothy Michael McKernan. That's Jackson Bennett Burkett. And it is our pleasure to welcome to the program the great Jeremy Rutherford. Morning, JR.
Morning, Tim. Yeah, we'll talk a little Blues today. I happened to be in the seat with BK last week, shortly after the Ali Marmol news came out, and was feeling the shrapnel. So sounds like it's still being thrown around today. Huh?
Oh, it's unreal. I haven't been this surprised by a move. What's the most surprising / unpopular move? Because Craig Berube, I don't know how surprising that was, but it was certainly unpopular that you've covered. I'm putting you on the spot here, but what the hell? Why not?
Yeah. No, for sure. I think Berube, that's way up there, number 1A. I think another one probably is, I guess we could talk about one of the 8 times they let David Perron go.
Yeah, that's a nice play. That's a nice play. Yeah.
TJ Oshie, that's another one, just played his 1,000th game, but I think when he got let go, that was got traded to Washington. That was something that obviously got everybody's in a tizzy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the thing on Friday, I want to know what the real reason for that was. But either way, JR, that's I'm not going to let Jackson distract us from talking hockey.
Damn it.
You know, that I know that was his plan, and we're just not going to let it happen. 4 straight. I was thinking, and I bet you were as well, and I could hear it in the voices of Joey Vitale and Chris Kerber last night as I was driving home with my older son. The disdain for what they had seen through the first approximately 35 minutes of play before they got the game-tying goal from Kevin Hayes, that this is going to be an ultimate momentum killer. You beat the Bruins in Boston. You beat the Kings in St. Louis. You get the shootout win on Saturday night against the Wild, even though it's disappointing that you were able to, or that they were able to get a point. And now you're going to play a team that is just playing out the string, and you're going to have that kind of performance. This is going to be the bullet on the 24 season. And instead, Drew Bannister makes some changes to the power play. The team gets that game-tying goal from Hayes, and away they go into the third period where they unleash, courtesy of Jake Neighbors being right in front of that net all the damn time. So it turns from what could have been a mess to a really solid win, not pretty, but solid with the third period, and then setting the stage for the matchup with the Avalanche tomorrow night, and you can still believe if you would like to.
Yeah, first of all, you're right. That absolutely would have been the bullet yesterday. And maybe you come back and you somehow figure out a way to get into the playoffs, but to lose that game, to me, you might as well look at Money Puck and these other sites that project in the playoff percentages, and it should have been at 0 if you lose that game yesterday. And I was on the pregame with Alex Ferrario, and you hope as a beat writer to have a pulse of how things are going, and he asked me about the game, and I said that, hey, listen, there's been a lot of games like this one this year, and they have not shown up, and so they have a track record of not showing up in these games. And through that first period, I felt that there was a situation where how do you look at, are they not showing up, or you look at it like it's second night of back-to-back, less than 24 hours, Anaheim's the rested team, but you had 3 power plays and you only got 5 shots on net, and this is the league's 30th ranked penalty kill, the Anaheim Ducks. So just a bad first period, but as you touched on, some adjustments on the power play. They brought out Justin Falk and Braden Shen. Out went Krug and Kyrou.
Yep.
And they get the 3 goals, and so they pull it out, and they get to move on. And we're not talking about that bullet that they take yesterday, but Tim, yeah, that was pretty ugly for about 20 minutes or so.
I realize all of us are guessing whether we wind up being right or wrong. It doesn't matter. It's still guesswork when you're talking about who gets in and who doesn't, and also what is a logjam in the Western Conference for those playoff spots. But I feel like that the 4.9% chance that Money Puck has the Blues of getting into the playoffs strikes me as low. And I'm not saying that thinking that the Blues are some dynamo or anything like that. It just strikes me as low. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I realize it means nothing, but I just think that they have a better than 1 in 20 shot at getting in.
Yeah, well, let's look at it here for a second. So just to make sure that people are refreshed, you have L.A. is in the 3rd spot in the Pacific with 79 points, and you have the wild card teams. Let's not talk about Nashville because they're way up there with 82 points, but Vegas, the 2nd wild card team, with 79. So right now the Blues are 4 points behind the teams that they're trying to catch for that last wild card spot, LA and Vegas. And those two teams have a game in hand on the Blues. So the Blues have 14 left, and those two teams have 15 left. So you can kind of look at it as 6 points if those teams win that game in hand. And now let's look at the schedule down the stretch. I just looked at LA's schedule and Vegas. LA, they've lost 2 of 3. They have Tampa, Vancouver twice, Edmonton, and Winnipeg. So some pretty stiff teams. And then Vegas, even worse, they've won 3 of 4, but they've got Tampa, Nashville, Winnipeg, Vancouver twice, Edmonton, and Colorado down the stretch. So I think in comparison, the Blues have a little bit of a lighter schedule than those teams, but the big one comes on Tuesday night. And Tim, even though the Blues stretched it to 4 yesterday, lots of parts of that game that you didn't see the same consistency and the same upward trend that you saw in the 3 previous victories. Drew Bannister saying that they played some of their best hockey in that 3-game winning streak. But now they play Colorado. Colorado's won 6 in a row. So, this is one of those games that you can, quote unquote, afford to lose, because I think when you looked at the last 17 games, you said if they could go like 11-6, okay,
right.
Well, is Tuesday one of those 6 losses? It could be, but I think depending on how you play, you got to keep that going in terms of how you've been playing here lately. Even if you lose this one, you got to keep showing some of these same signs that you've shown in the winning streak.
With regard to what you saw on Saturday specifically, because the team and Drew Bannister raved about that performance, and I think maybe the outside observer would go, oh, well, I mean, they still let the Wild get a point. But as far as the overall performance, and that coming on the heels of the Kings game and what I think was one of the most shocking performances, and that is the win in Boston, what is it specifically that either you've been observing or the Blues have liked about the play in those 3 games, taking yesterday out of the equation?
To me, it's the tighter checking, it's the urgency, it's the understanding the situation. But we can talk about the third line has done a really good job of offering more support. The power play yesterday, of course, the goaltending. But to me, when you look at that Minnesota game, they just looked like they were connected, and I think that leads with the forechecking and the tight checking. And Tim, I think that that seems like something that should be pretty common in a hockey game, but it hasn't been for the Blues. So when I watched that game and I watched their last few games, they looked like a team that had a purpose, and it was starting to look more like a team that was trying to pull it together and get into the playoffs. So we didn't see a lot of that yesterday, but, again, what do? You chalk some of that up to that back-to-back.
I know we've discussed him. I feel like this is becoming weekly, but at the same time, Kelly Chase and Barrett Jackman were in studio on TMA earlier this morning, raving about Jake Neighbors, the influence Shen has had on him, going to the front of the net, which isn't something a lot of guys like to do or are willing to do. And there he was last night, in particular in the third period. Joey Vitale and Chris Kerber raving about him, other teammates raving about him, and he made his presence known last night in the Blues coming back from that 1-0 deficit. What have you seen from Neighbors here emerging, and specifically what we saw last night?
Yeah, just more of the same. And you look, he had a hand in all 3 of those power play goals. It gets the deflection, but also, the screens
right.
On the other 2 and just parking in front of the net. Tim, I looked it up last night on the NHL Edge stats at NHL.com. 22 goals this year for Jake Neighbors. 17 of the 22 have come right around the net. You're talking that high danger area, whether it's in the paint or just outside the paint. He's made a living there. And, I asked him, what was that conversation like when the coaches talked to you about playing in the net front? Because that's not a position he played in junior. He was over on the flank. And he said there was no conversation. And this shows you the maturity of Jake Neighbors. Here was his response. He said that I walked in, I saw my number in the blue paint, and I knew the job I had to do from that moment on. This isn't a kid who went and thought about it. Well, is that really, my position? I'm not really a net front guy. I'm 6 foot, 201 pounds soaking wet. He said, I knew the job I had to do from that point on. And look, he's getting his mail in front of the net right now. He's going to change his address to the front of the net with the way he's been playing for their team.
I like that. That was a little hockeyism right there. Oh, Jackson's over there looking at Bucks highlights, so he didn't catch it.
Well, you guys time up?
See, there it was. See right there. You see what happened right there, JR? Hey, finally.
Yeah, I didn't hear the Ledoux laugh there.
Yeah, someone's getting mail.
The Ledoux laugh. I mean, maybe we're taking him for granted. I don't know. But Robert Thomas, I mean, who knows what he could wind up doing here over the final 14 games? If he could put it together with a heater, maybe he can get to 30 goals. I realize that isn't necessarily likely, but 80 points in play with a heater. What do you think about what we've seen from Robert Thomas? I saw Ryan Whitney raving about him last night on the Twitter tweets, and the attention that he's starting to get as far as appreciation. Yeah, an all-star, but maybe flying under the radar as far as North American appreciation for his game.
Yep, just a great season. Even if he doesn't get to 30, whatever he gets to point-wise, it's been an unbelievable season for Robert Thomas. And, you know, the points aside, just the way that he's carried himself, he's becoming a professional. Not that he wasn't that before, but I think that he's becoming a leader for this team. And as we all know, to be a leader, you got to show it with the way you play on the ice and your production. And so I think that Robert Thomas this year has taken that step that he can be that guy for 10-plus years for this organization, and the points are going to come as a result of the way he's playing and the way he's carrying himself.
There it is. Jeremy Rutherford with us. Miss anything? Go back and podcast via the Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast. JR with us every Monday here on Balloon Party, every Wednesday on TMA on a 101 ESPN throughout the course of the week. Thank you, JR.
Hey, buddy.
There he is. That's Jeremy Rutherford with us here on Balloon Party. Time for us to go. BK and Ferrario are up next. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Munganess presentation of Balloon Party. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel.